my new hall, and I want you to meet my assistant, Jack. I take him everywhere. I've given this some thought, and I believe that as we get older, we have a much greater sense of time and how quickly it passes. So if my temple, Israel, is 100 years old, and it's all that I've ever known since my childhood, then I can't be far behind. My granddaughter Miriam would say, "Graham, that's a wow and an OMG." But it seems like yesterday, and it really does, that I was cruising the halls of the temple with friends, anticipating my confirmation. There were no bat mitzvahs in those days. And wasn't it recently when Jack drove our girls to Sunday school at 9 a.m. every Sunday morning? But that can't be right either, because they are both over 60.
Wow.
You think you're shocked, Michelle. My personal memories of Temple Israel are all positive, for it was always a place of welcome, a place of comfort and acceptance, and a place of joy. Regarding the fact that that is what I knew and nothing more, just a quick example. When Jack and I were dating in high school, he invited me to join his family for Holy Day services at the Sephardic Synagogue in Los Angeles. I was excited and quite pleased, and I remember taking his arm as we walked in and asking, "Where would you like to sit?" And he replied, "Oh, you're going to sit upstairs with all the women." I remained speechless, trying to be on my best behavior. At Temple Israel, rabbis and teachers came and went through the years, some solemn and gruff, and others fun and engaging. But most special was Rabbi Wally Kaufer. It seemed that he was forever teaching us by sharing his words of wisdom. We often joked that he could present a fun sermon on brushing your teeth. Rabbi Wally was lovable, yet strong, and very, very set in his ways. My mother often said that he took the temple by storm. For example, one of the first things he did upon arrival was bust up the poker game in the back room at night. And in doing that, he had to involve some of the leadership and many of the VIPs, but it was done. Mom and Rabbi Wally enjoyed a special friendship, visits, and an occasional date for lunch. So in their later years, when they stopped driving, I would pick them up and deliver them to the park pantry, which I'm sure many of you remember. It was a favorite. Upon leaving, I always got the same orders. Now remember, do not pay our check, as they would argue about whose turn it was. One day, when I returned, they asked for their check, and the waitress said, "Oh, a customer sitting nearby and enjoying your visit picked it up." True, it did happen, but I don't think they believed it, and they were still looking at me with suspicion. Now, on to my family history involving the beginning of Temple Israel. In the early 1900s, my grandparents, Fanny Paulner and Paul Phillips, immigrated to the United States from Russia, Ukraine. They met here, married, and started a family. They met here, married, and started a family in Long Beach. Grandpa was very arthritic in his early years, and the doctor suggested that they should live in an even and mild climate. He was a butcher by trade, but going in and out of refrigeration became difficult for his health. So he decided to give it up and join his brother-in-law in a new endeavor. They each had families to feed, and anything would be better than nothing. So he and Uncle Sam purchased a wagon and began collecting people's discards by going through the neighborhood. It was called junk or trash. Pieces of wood, metal, glass, paper, broken tools and broken equipment, and just any old part they could find. Anything that could be sold. Many years later, that business became the current Phillips Steel Company. It has passed through generations of our family, and I'm proud to say it is over 100 years old.
Wow.
Still in Long Beach and family owned, run by my cousin's daughter. My, how times have changed.
My daughter worked there for a while, I just have to say.
The early Jewish community was very small in the 20s and just beginning to develop. Families needed a synagogue, but were only able to rent a vacant building here in Long Beach on West Anaheim near Magnolia. It became known as the Jewish Community Building and was the hub of Jewish life and activities. They then hired their first rabbi, Rabbi Liebert, to lead the congregation and oversee the activities, holiday services, Torah school, brotherhood and sisterhood groups, and social events. My mother, Flora Phillips, is pictured in the first confirmation class in 1926.
Wow.
Believe it or not, that old building on Anaheim is still standing, minus the Star of David window that hangs as memorabilia in our own Temple Israel on Loma. But eventually, it became a problem to accommodate both the Reform and conservative practices under one roof. No surprise. And they decided to split. The conservative group moved on, and left the building to the Reformed families, who then named it Temple Israel. You've all heard the saying that if you have 2 Jews, you need at least 3 temples. They won't agree on anything. Last, forward to the early 40s, Jewish families had grown here and prospered, so they were able to purchase the lot and corner on 3rd and Loma, with some financial help, of course, and built the original building or structure. It has been our home for all these years. The Phillips family, Grandma, Grandpa, and children stayed here. Their children stayed here. My mom, and my uncle stayed here, and their children stayed. My children stayed and gave us grandchildren and now great-grandchildren. And if they follow suit, they will be 5th and 6th generation Temple Israelites.
Wow.
Wow.
As many of you know, just a few years ago, our congregation was experiencing change, frustration, and unrest. At that time, I received a phone call from a fellow congregant with a heavy question. Had I considered leaving Temple Israel and finding another congregation? I quickly replied, no. It is my home away from home. Nothing is perfect, and to grow is to change. In closing, I must say that my Temple Israel and I have had a wonderful journey, and I feel truly blessed. Thank you for inviting me to come and share my story. My favorite quote is also one of Gail's. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Again, my thanks, and keep on dancing.
If you would like to ask any questions, that was so heartfelt and wonderful. It
My
was
pleasure, dear.
more than we could have imagined.
My
You just
pleasure.
did a beautiful
Did
job.
Mom